Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Carl and Tom both tipped me off to a story. And with modern technology being the way it is, a lot of stuff changes. And one of the big shifts has been from paper to digital. Think about how much paper you handled in your job or at school in the old days. And as we've transitioned over to how many things have become digital, we don't have any paper copies of them. And some of the stuff we've wondered about, like the registration for your car, the proof of insurance for your car, or even your driver's license. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. Is Apple has secured the first states to support digital driver's licenses, but privacy questions linger, and other questions linger as well. Now, Zach Whitaker wrote this for TechCrunch.com, and Apple's plan to digitize your wallet is slowly taking shape. Yeah, this can only end well. What started with boarding passes and venue tickets later became credit cards, subway tickets, and student IDs. Now Apple's looking at driver's licenses and state IDs, which it plans to support in its iOS 15 update, which is expected out later this year. And some of those things I get completely, some of them not so much. To get there, it needs help from state governments, since it's the states that issue driver's licenses and other forms of state ID. Every state has different IDs. We've all seen the different driver's licenses and IDs, and every state's got their own rules on that. And that is one of the things that is left to the states by the federal government. That is to manage the rules on their roads and so on. Apple said recently it has so far secured two states, Arizona and Georgia, to start using digital driver's licenses and state IDs. Now, a few more are expected to follow, but haven't given a timeline for it yet. Those would include Connecticut, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Oklahoma, and Utah. And my fear is that a lot of states are going to just jump on the bandwagon without thinking this through very carefully. Apple said in June it would begin supporting digital licenses and IDs, and that the TSA would be the first agency to begin accepting a digital license from an iPhone at several airports, since only a state ID is required for traveling by air domestically within the U.S. The TSA will allow you to present your digital wallet by tapping it on an identity reader. Apple says the feature is secure and doesn't require handing over or unlocking your phone. The digital license and ID data is stored on your iPhone, but a driver's license must be verified by the participating state. That has to happen at a scale and speed to support millions of drivers and travelers while preventing fake IDs from making it through. And of course, not every single person, every single state is going to participate in this. For one thing, those of us who don't have iPhones won't be buying an iPhone just so you can use a digital driver's license. The goal of digitizing licenses and IDs is convenience rather than fixing a particular problem. And again, this is an issue I've always had. They're fixing a problem that didn't exist. This problem did not exist, but they fixed it. The move hasn't exactly drawn confidence from privacy experts who bemoan Apple's lack of transparency about how it built this technology and what it ultimately gets out of it. Apple still has not said much about how the digital ID technology works or what data a state government obtains as part of the process to enroll a digital license on an iPhone. Apple is also working on a new but unannounced security verification feature that takes selfies to validate the user, apparently to prevent someone else from using the license without permission. It's not to say these systems aren't inherently problematic or flawed, but there are privacy questions that Apple will have to address down the line. And, they talk about, having it scanned by a reader. I would assume a human has still got to look at your face and look at your thing to see if they match, don't they? I mean, we can't cut people out of this entirely. I'd like to cut people out of it entirely. I've had some TSA issues, but I don't know that can be done just yet. The fragmented picture of digital licenses and IDs across the U.S. isn't likely to get less murky overnight, even after Apple enters the picture. A recent public records request by Muckrock showed Apple was in contact with some states as early as 2019 about bringing digital licenses and IDs to iPhones, including California and Illinois, yet neither state has been announced by Apple. So California, of course, is a very populous state, and they like to be on the cutting edge of things. Illinois, likewise, very, very populous, and some cutting edge, but, Wisconsin, South Carolina, and Rhode Island are likely further behind after finding out about Apple's digital license plan the very day it was announced at WWDC. So here's the thing. Carl and Tom each sent this to me and asked, Steve, I got a question for you. Police officer pulls you over, says driver's license, and you hand him your driver's license. Now you've got a digital license on your phone. Police officer pulls you over and goes, driver's license. Do you hand him or her your phone? I, as your attorney, would suggest you not do that. I don't like the idea about my phone being in someone else's hands, because all it takes is someone to swipe something or click something, and suddenly they're looking at my photographs, they're looking at my emails, they're looking at my browser history, they're looking at mymytv.com, which is an app you can put on your phone. They're looking at all sorts of things. And I didn't want them to look at those things, but they fat-fingered it by accident. Oops, what can I say? Oh, here's a text message you just sent somebody. And they're reading it. And by the way, since they got the phone pointing at them, you can't see what they're doing. So you hand your phone to somebody, a stranger, a police officer, and you see them do this. What do? Grab the phone back? I wouldn't make any sudden movements around a police officer to the side of the road. I wouldn't recommend that. So my advice to you is, I wouldn't personally feel comfortable handing my phone to a police officer. Now, here's the thing. You might say, Steve, as an attorney, can you advise us? What is the legality of such a thing? What are we talking about here? And of course, I don't advise you because I'm not your attorney. We don't have an attorney-client relationship, but I do talk about legal issues here. And there's a disclaimer at the end of my videos to suggest I'm not giving you legal advice. But I will tell you the legalities of this, because in many states, there is a law that says if you are driving on the road and you get pulled over, a police officer can walk up to you and ask to see your driver's license and possibly your proof of insurance and registration, depending on the state. Some of those things they can actually check on their own, whatever. But sometimes, I know in Michigan, they're going to say driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. And you hand all three to the officer. Now, 2 of those things are available already on your phone. You can actually do that if you want to. I would suggest you don't do that, so they don't have your phone in their hands, so they can't fat finger your texts. Okay? However, the law in Michigan, I'm going to give it to you, and this is very common across the country, says at MCL 257-311 from the blue books behind me, possession of operator's or chauffeur's license or receipt when operating motor vehicle required display identification. That's the title. Section 311, the licensee shall have his or her operator's or chauffeur's license or the receipt described in Section 311A in his or her immediate possession at all times when operating a motor vehicle, and shall display the same upon demand of any police officer who shall identify himself or herself as such. So if a stranger walks up to you on the street and goes, let me see your driver's license, you can say no. Now if they say, I am a police officer, show me your driver's license. Well, if you were operating a motor vehicle at that moment in time, you will have to display your license to them. But you'll notice it says, shall have it in your immediate possession and shall display the same. Display. And display is the key word here, because you display something by showing it to them. Now, here's the problem. I have seen videos of people at the side of the road giving police a hard time. I've also had people ask me, Steve, suppose I don't feel like rolling my window down for whatever reason. I'm just asking you a thought experiment here. So cop walks up and he says to me through the glass, driver's license, please. Can I take my driver's license out and hold it up against the glass so he can see it? Technically speaking, yes. It says here that you shall display the same. Now, putting it up against the glass, if he or she can see it, it has been displayed. However, I'm just letting you know, if you do that, there's a good chance a police officer is going to say, I can't read it. I can't see through your glass is dirty, your glass is scratched. Your driver's license looks fishy to me. It looks like it's been altered. You know, I've seen people who have driver's licenses that have been through the washing machine a few times too many. I've seen driver's licenses that look rough. I've seen them that look like they've been messed up. You know, like a cat got it and played with it for a while. So if you display your license and they can't read it legitimately, they can say, I can't read that. At which point the solution would be to hand it to them. Now, you can say, Steve, the law says display. If I put it up against the glass, I have displayed it. And yes, Technically speaking, you are correct. But if you play chess, you understand this. If you don't play chess, I'm going to explain it using a metaphor you might not care for, or an analogy. But if you play chess, you can ask yourself, if I move my piece here, well, he's obviously going to move his piece here. And then I'm stuck because I can't protect this piece here. So I guess I shouldn't move this piece here. So you don't move your piece, so this piece never goes there and causes this to happen. So you think these things through a couple moves down the road. So let's play this out. You get pulled over on a dark and stormy night. Police officer walks up to your window and says, "Driver's license, please." And you take it and you hold it up against the glass and go, "There you go." And he goes, "I can't see that." And you go, "Too bad. MCL 257311 says all I have to do is to display it to you." Police officer goes, "I can't see it. I cannot see your driver's license. I cannot read it through the glass. I need to be able to read it and see it." And you say, "I don't care. I have complied with the law. I have displayed my license to you." There's a very good chance that this roadside stop is going to escalate into a situation as if you have refused to give him your driver's license. Now you might say, "But Steve, I displayed it to him." Yes, and what's going to happen is you're going to wind up in court a couple weeks down the road in front of a judge. And you're going to say, "Your Honor, I had my driver's license and I held it up against the window. It was displayed, and the law says all I got to do is display it. Am I not correct in that I followed the law?" And the judge is going to ask the police officer, "Is that what happened?" And he's going to go, "Yeah, that's exactly what happened." And I told him I couldn't read it through the glass. His glass was scratchy and dirty. His driver's license is mangled. I couldn't read it. I asked him to hand it to me. He wouldn't hand it to me. Police officer is going to say, "That's why I escalated this." The judge is going to look at you and go, "Why wouldn't you hand it to him?" And you're going to say, "Well, the law only says I have to display it. I was following the letter of the law." The judge is going to say, "Well, but see, the letter of the law is one thing. The intent of the law is that the police officer should be able to pull somebody over and verify that they have an authentic, valid driver's license in their possession. When you held yours up to the window and he said he couldn't read it, he could not verify that you had an authentic driver's license in your possession. So the solution should have been that you simply cracked your window about that far and slid it through and let him look at it. Why didn't you do that?" And you'd say, "Well, Your Honor, I was sticking to the law. The law said all I got to do is display it. That's all I got. I'm following the law." And the judge is going to say, "Yeah, but you could have resolved it very simply by simply sliding it through, because quite frankly, your driver's license does look mangled to me, and I don't know what your car looks like, but it's a good chance on a rainy night. It's hard to see through the window. Maybe been fog on the inside, maybe been steam on the outside. Who knows? Who knows? Steam on the inside, fog on the outside." Okay? But the point is that you would have caused all of that to happen by refusing to give it to him, even though the law only says you got to display it. So if that's the hill you want to die on, as they say, yeah, hold it up against the window when he says, "I can't see it." Go, "Too bad, law's on my side," and watch what happens. You'll see what happens. So that's the problem I have. I know it's a long way to go. That's the problem I have with the digital ID or digital driver's license. Because if you hold it up the window like this, police officers are going to be looking through the window at a screen, which, as you know, if you just tilt the screen slightly, it can screw things up, and say, "I can't see that. Can hand me your phone?" If the police officer says, "Hand me your," fill in the blank, "driver's license or phone," I'd rather hand in the driver's license, not the phone. But if you want to possibly be in the situation somewhere down the road where a police officer says, "Oh, driver's license, please," and you say, "It's on my phone," he says, "Hand me your phone." If you're happy handing your phone over, do this, get on the cutting edge of modern technology, and laugh at all the Luddites like me who like paper. It may have occurred to you that I've got the story here printed on paper. Okay, I could cut these and paste these and put them digitally on a monitor I've got 3 inches below the camera. I don't. I like paper. What can I tell you? So there you go. Apple secures the first states to support digital driver's licenses. Privacy questions do linger because there's also questions about what happens with your information when it's being stored digitally. Can someone get into your phone and get the information off it? Can they get the driver's license off it? Can they break into whatever the state's doing or whatever Apple's doing or whatever the app's doing? Who knows? Who knows? Those are all questions beyond my pay grade. The biggest problem I have is handing your phone to a cop. I wouldn't want to do that. TechCrunch.com ran the article that Zach Whitaker wrote. Carl and Tom sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, do put them below. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. On the other hand, you have different fingers.